Our lives are a string of insights, flashes of inspiration that can be the catalyst for new ideas. However, our pace of life these days means we tend to miss some of them completely. I'm Dave Hill, and I'm the host of the Simple Reflections podcast, a fortnightly series of interviews with people from all walks of life. Our conversations are an invitation to reflect on some of the simple insights my guests have had that have gone on to have a profound impact on their lives. So grab a cuppa and a biscuit, join us, slow down for a little while and see what shows up for you. Welcome to the next episode of the Simple Reflections podcast. Today I'm joined by Eirik Olsen. Eirik is the co-founder and executive director of One Solution, something he set up with his wife Mara a good number of years ago now, and is coming to us today from Oslo in Norway. Eirik, lovely to meet you, lovely to see you.
Yes, lovely to see you too. Thank you so much for inviting me to the podcast.
You're very welcome. You guys have been on my radar for as long as I've been swimming around in the Three Principles world, I suppose. Having done my training with One Thought in London, and Mara obviously having helped be the founding part of setting that up. And as I was starting my journey of discovering all of this stuff, you guys were in the process of establishing One Solution, which, from my understanding, has fairly large ambitions in terms of trying to tackle really large, crunchy problems for the world by going into communities and organizations and helping them understand things from the inside, I suppose, and helping them change the dial on things. I suppose that my first question for you is, what took the pair of you from a life of bouncing between Brooklyn and Oslo to go to Chicago and start tackling things with gangs? What was it that drew you there in the first place?
Sure. Well, I think at that point we were in, like you said, in the beginning stages of um, founding One Solution and exploring what it could be as an organization. It was more like a hypothesis at that time, and it was a way of following our breadcrumbs to where we thought we could have the most impact. We actually only started the actual foundation and the nonprofit because out of randomness, it was originally a conference and it only became a organization because we had saw this grant that was for $100 million, and in order to go for that, you had to start a nonprofit. And so it's very random that we did that, and we didn't have any experience running a nonprofit and came from a little bit more like maybe consulting or running institutes or working with groups and stuff like that. So it was like a completely different world. And when you enter a new world, we had to kind of understand it and play around a little bit. So we did the opposite of what usually people do when they start an organization. They pick something very narrow and they kind of go there very, very deep on that. And then they do that for a long time before they ever expand into, let's say, different demographics or different geographics or anything like that. But because we were so new, we kind of went the opposite direction and see like, let's go wide and see what really kind of resonates with us. So that had us in the beginning start with conferences because that was how we began. So we started in Oslo, and then we won in Cape Town, and then one in Jerusalem, and then we got invited different places to work. So in Israel and in Gaza, that both those kind of areas, in Goma, in the Congo, um, in prisons, in education, with businesses, different parts of the United States. And when we got invited to a conference in Chicago, it was a little bit different because we were kind of like pulled there. It was almost like a magnetic force. We, in the first day we were there, we met Dejan at the time, who was the co-founder of the Rebels for Peace, which later became the Rebels for Peace. We met the chief of police there. We met a few very prominent nonprofits there that we got like initial meetings with within like one day. And suddenly these like relationships kind of built up. We started to really feel the power of youth. And that's one thing, like I use the words gangs just kind of like in terms of how we talk about it. We talk more in terms of youth.
Hmm.
We don't use that type of language. But so started then seeing the potential of youth because particularly youth like 16 to 25, they're in this unique position where they can really impact the future generations. Like, if you look at any type of huge activism movements or any type of really like revolutions, it's usually young people that are in that range. So they can really like drive things and push despite of the older generations kind of grasp on how things are supposed to be. They're able to like break through that. But they also have the ability to influence their younger peers because they're close enough to them and they're cool, they're relatable. The younger people look up to them in a different way. So we saw that like, oh, there's something about this energy here that is so cool to put our resources behind. And after like going back and forth, kind of traveling to Chicago, our relationships there became so deep that like we had to make a decision of like, are we going to half-ass this and build this relationship and not really continue them to the necessary like point, or do we go all in? And at that point, we chose to go all in and then move there and kind of ingrain ourselves in listening and understanding a community that was new to us.
Mm. There's a lot in there, and a lot. It's really heartening to hear you sort of throwing yourselves out to see what was possible and allowing that to all just sort of settle, I suppose, and go right. This is what feels right to us, rather than what the normal thing is. Right, I'm going to pick that and start there and see what we can build. I think there's something reassuring in that for most of us. I think because the world tries to force you down a route of specialization as early as possible, um, and actually our capacity to have impact in people's lives is enormous, if we hold ourselves open to what's possible.
Yes. And to add to that, I think what I've seen that have people like freeze and not kind of take action on the things because they have whatever idea they have of how they're supposed to do it. And it's really like, I don't see any other way than actually going through experiments and iterations and figuring out how to get there. So you can't think your way through from the beginning of the path and sit there long enough and use your own brain or now, use ChatGPT, whatever you use, but it's not actually live. It's like dead energy.
Mhm.
You don't figure out what you're supposed to do or who you're supposed to be or what your life is supposed to be about by sitting on the side thinking about it. But if you then see one thing very early, then go for that one thing. But if you don't know, then you just gotta like keep walking. And that's might be scary because like where am I going? Like what am I gonna say? It's like that's the point. You don't know until you start walking. But it is a little bit scary to try things and not be good at things and fail and spend a significant amount of time in that space, not being able to explain what you're about or how you do things. I mean, the earlier conversation was like, so what do you do? Like, how do you like it was like, I don't know. And we tried our best, but in those conversations, we felt stupid. Like,
Hmm.
especially when you try to like speak to either highly educated people or people with like years of experience in the social impact space. it's very easy to just not do it because you are afraid of feeling stupid, or not knowing what you are. So that's true in our field, but any product too, if you're an entrepreneur, it's the same thing. It's like you have to like go walk the path.
Yeah, yeah. It's something I've seen time and time again. After leaving the army, I spent a period of time as a project manager, which was interesting, and it was fascinating to see companies just completely getting themselves wrapped around the plan that's been created at a point in time based on not a huge amount of information normally at the start, and then
Yeah.
getting really upset when you don't hit every single thing along the way, forgetting that as you start doing stuff, more information becomes available because you're learning things on the fly, and that if you don't take account of that, you're going to set yourself up for failure. Um, and it also reminds me of planning in a military sense. It's good enough to get you started, and once you start, you have no idea what's coming because somebody else has got a role in how things unfurl. And sometimes, I can remember being in Sierra Leone uh, just before Christmas in 2001, I think it was, uh, doing a brigade advance to contact because we had no idea what was in front of us. Thankfully, it was lots of smiling people, and there was no contact. But the idea was you keep going until you bump into something to fight, and that's basically what you've just described is getting started, getting messy, and seeing what you learn from that process. And it does feel uncomfortable. But it is, that's how human beings have evolved to where they are today.
Yeah. And I love that balance of, because I also from the same kind of experience of following process. I think it is a super strength to be able to train something to the point where it becomes unconscious because you're so good at it, and to have reliable systems that follow that everyone's aware of, and particularly in building teams and things like that, and having, SOPs and things that you do automatically that you can do in your, with your eyes closed. That is like on the one side a real superpower. Like that is needed in these organizations, in the nonprofit world too. Like it's so needed to have those trainings. But on the other side, it never looks, and that's how like you keep adding to a library of SOPs because you're like, oh, I've never encountered this before. I've never encountered this before. I never encountered. You just keep like learning um, of things you haven't come across before. And if you're overtrained to follow a process, you will freak out when it's like, what's going on here? Um, and on the flip side, there's so many strengths to it. I see people on the other end who would just want like complete, like, do whatever occurs to them in the moment, every day, every week, and every year. And the problem with that is like that might work, but a lot of times stuff don't get done that way. Like if you really want to build something, it doesn't also just work completely on intuition because it's so intuition can be mixed with my state of mind that day, and I might not feel like doing that, and I don't have any systems that save me, so I end up like just like not doing so much. And I see that in kind of the side of the, I guess more the free-minded or open or following breadcrumbs style of building something, which I was like all in on. So I think in the army, I was all the way over there. And then I went all the way over there and not much got done. And now I'm like, oh, there's a joining of these
Mm,
worlds where if you can play that game together, you can follow these things, but you're so responsive and intuitive when it inevitably doesn't happen the way you plan.
yeah. Your children are quite young, and there's an element of organized play when there's something to do and there's something to learn, and then there's free play, and the organized play helps enable some of the free play in a way. and the free
Yeah.
play gets brought back into the organized stuff. And it's being able to realize when something is completely aligned with the system and going with that, and when it's not, and being absolutely okay and going, right, so what is on here? What can we do from this space? Not from a position of fear, but from a position of curiosity and wonder that lights you up, because you know you've got a set of systems, or SOPs as you described them, for we've got a whole load of things covered. This one doesn't quite fit in that, but what can we do from here? And is really, really exciting, um, being with a group of people that might feel stuck because it doesn't fit with their standard procedures, and offering them the opportunity to go, okay, well, what can we do? And it's okay to explore. Let's play. Um, it's such an expansive place to be.
Yeah. I mean, what occurred to me when you said that is like even dancers, like it looks so free. It looks like they're just whoa, I'm just moving. It's like, nah, they practiced the left step to the right and like they did these very methodical, very structured, limited things. And then when they did that for a long time and started putting small pieces, now, okay, first the arm, then the shoulder, okay, and then you do a little bit here, and then now the hips come in. Um, and it's not just like they're just free flowing off the bat, but like having those initial boundaries, and then you turn off your brain, and then you just dance, or
Mm,
you box, or you do business, or like I do jujitsu. It's the same thing. It's very methodical and technique, but then you let your jujitsu talk to you, as it's called. Like you have to like do it, and then you let go. And that's when you see these amazing things happen. But I do think we get it mixed up on either side, and that there's this flow, even when we listen to singers and these amazing artists, it feels like, oh, it's just coming from them. It's like, no, they practice this note 1,000 times, very structured and very disciplined for a long time, and now they get to play. So I think I misunderstood that for a long time. That balance of, oh, there's the structured way of doing it, and then there's this play, and there's a time for both.
mm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Just using that analogy, even taking some supposedly completely unstructured element of jazz and how that comes together. That is a meeting of structures. It just
Yeah.
happens to be not practiced, and people playing off what they're hearing, but using their own systems that have got them there.
Yes.
Yeah. What is exciting is that that's hardwired into all of us, and it feels really, really cool when it's happening.
Yes. Yeah. And it's beautiful when you're able to turn off whatever's going on in the way that allows either something that you've practiced to occur, but maybe something you didn't practice to occur. It opens up the space for both of them, and they both get so well executed when we have a freedom of mind or an internal quiet. It accelerates both what we practice and keeps the door open for what we might come out of nowhere. Like I've never said that, I've never done that, I never moved like that. It's just like something else takes over, and it will use your learnings and your teaching and everything you've done in your life. If it's needed, it will just like, oh, let me grab a little bit of that and implement that because that's what the moment needs. Or like, oh, actually, like we need something new here that you've never experienced before. I'm going to add a little bit of that. So this flow or this state is available to use everything. And that's when I see in these high level, like in any type of performance, whether it's business or art, it's that ability to be that allows the old and the new to merge into something that we might haven't seen before. And that's beautiful. That's when you start tearing up. It's like, whoa, there's something else going on. Like this is not just is their training. This is something different, and you can see it and recognize it. And I mean, it's so nice the rare times when I do get to it kind of, it just comes in that way and it kind of flows. Um, and I think we're all kind of like looking or scanning for that all the time.
Mm. I'm going to take us back to the Rebels for Peace and the draw that took you to Chicago to go and work there. Um, how did the youth that you came across there initially respond to what it was that you guys were offering, and how did that develop into Rebels for Peace?
Um, I think the first youth, which was one individual, that was Dejan, and then it became whoever he was connected to was had like an epiphany or an aha moment where the other youth might not have had it. And for anyone who doesn't resonate with it, it just looks like boredom or like, what are they talking about? Or like they're full of shit or like, what is this? So there's definitely that happening as it is with adults. It's just young people have more obvious ways of showing it, whereas
Yeah,
adults are
yeah,
very polite. Oh, that was nice. I like that. And then they're really saying like this was bad. Whereas youth, they will just overtly fall asleep or whatever it might be.
yeah. No
So it's
filter.
really is a mix, but I think it is once you connect with someone and it's mutual, like the youth will connect with they will connect with you and we will need to connect with them. So we need to be in a position of listening and understanding and trying to figure out something new. And from that, they will need to take it somewhere. So we very early on that it can't be a relationship where I to use just using me and Sam, I go somewhere and I'm the one that people look to no matter where I go. Like that's just one way of doing it. But if you do that, you will start developing a problem. People will start looking to you for the answer, and you will also not have enough time to do anything effectively. So we saw that like our way of helping the most is to find whoever resonates with it and then see what do they want to do something because they know their community, they know their background, they have a completely different connection. Like I'm an outsider, I don't look like them, I have a completely different thing. So it's like randomness that we were able to connect. Now that are connected, what do you want to do? So that was basically our question, like, what do you want to do? And then they would ask their friends, what do we want to do? And then we can be a resource to help fuel that. And that's how the Rebels of Peace started growing, is the youth started having ideas with each other. And then they said, now we want to work with, they literally went from like neighborhood to neighborhood, like in people's houses. We were in just like in a round table at someone's house in the beginning. Then we went into a classroom because we got invited there. And then we started talking with more people. And then they said, actually, we need to impact the younger generation. So we need a program in school. And that's when the mini rebels programs started to happen. Then we created these like leadership, 6-week leadership experiences for youth. Because they saw like the more leaders we have who can bring this forward in their own way, language and expression, the more we will reach more people in Chicago. So it really is thinking of how can you be of support of the wisdom they have to take it where they want to take it.
Hmm.
And that took a while to realize because I wanted to bring a lot of what I thought, but it was not informed enough to be effective. I was biased, had a lot of unconscious things that I brought to the table that was stopping progress from happening. So the test of do they truly know it? If I truly believe that, and I don't think they know this, but I actually know something more, if it truly is that way, then I should put my resources behind them and not in front of them. And eventually, then me and Mara, we work ourselves out of being there in front. And I feel like that's true. We go to a business too. Like if you go there, the business will become reliant on you, but you're trying to find them, see who sparks, and then you want it to build its own life and ecosystem within the organization so that you are not needed and that you don't have the wisdom and you are not doing anything. So it's like flipping why you're there on its head.
Mm.
And that is especially true if you're working in an environment that's completely different than you. But you can do it. Like you can work with businesses with zero experience in business, but it's a lot harder because you don't know the language, you don't know the lingo, you don't know. Then you have to go, am I willing to go on this learning curve? And that's how it was for us in Chicago. We hadn't worked with youth. We're two white people. I'm from Norway. I don't know even the American culture, let alone the complexities of the history of the United States in my bones. So am I willing to go on a learning curve about that? And if not, I should just work with Norwegians who look like me. You know what I mean? Because that is a lot simpler.
Mhm.
It's a lot simpler. But because the randomness of that meeting, I think we decided like, no, we want to go on the learning curve. We want to understand what happened. So from that now, it's the Routes of Peace has become its own organization, its own entity with its own leadership, with its own vision, with its own future that can kind of continue to grow. And we are so happy to be of support of that and be part of that. But it belongs in the hands that are most of the people who are most close to
Mm.
the youth and close to the community.
Mm. No, that's really beautiful. And I think there's two things that jump out at me there. I'm going to do the second one first. One is it's a little bit like raising children in a sense. You know, you're preparing them for the world to go off and be their own thing and do their thing. Uh, and it's exciting to see them take those first steps to go off and do their own, to get out there in the world. So that was a very clunky way of putting that, but there we go. Um, and the other piece I wanted to come back to, which might surprise some people, was the emphasis that you put on the rebels sharing things in their own language. Um, and it's a hugely empowering thing in a way, but it can feel that the things that we've learned and the way we explain them, that's the way, when actually no, that's just how it shows up for us. And what lands for someone and how they share it is way more impactful than them trying to pretend to be something else. um, and I just wondered how that's evolved both for you guys, pushing the boulder in the first place to get the ball rolling, but then for um, the rebels as they started growing themselves and realizing that they were going to have to let go and allow others to run with things and use their own language, how that has informed everything that you're doing, I suppose.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think so. For example, like me and Prince, who you'll get to talk to, have had hundreds of conversations about sometimes things we agree on, or sometimes things we disagree on. Sometimes it feels good, sometimes it feels very challenging. But because of the core being trust and the core being a common belief and assumption that we're trying to do something good and we have a good intent together, you are able to trust that the way I see it might not be the right way forward.
Mhm.
And my language, if I truly listen, and it's sometimes directly being told, direct would look like this won't work over here. That's the direct feedback. It's like, hey, that's not going to work. So I would say, oh, how about we do this? And then they'll say, no, that it's not going to work over there that way. It's like, no, I know, but like da 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 da. And there's like, no, 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 no. And sometimes they could try something and it doesn't work. Other times it's like, oh no, you're right. Like it's not an effective way. Like it was something that I uh had the thought. Or like, hey, you can't say it that way. Or that comes across like this. I was like, well, I mean, and I would have these initial "Mm, well, and I would fight for the way that I'm used to doing it. And if I get direct feedback, first of all, if I get direct feedback, I should definitely listen to that. Like that's direct feedback from the people who are close. So first off, if you ignore that, then now I'm just being stupid. And then there's indirect feedback, which might look like you just see it in the impact, or it doesn't resonate with people, or people don't show up for events, or they don't really change when they talk to them, or the kids don't understand what you're talking about. That's indirect feedback that like your language and your approach, there's something about it, and you have to change it, and you have to listen, try a different way of doing it. So you get this feedback from the people you are saying you're trying to serve. So I think those two things, if you're not aware of that, you will just talk the way you talk, do it the way you do it, and the people you will, and then you won't see or disregard all the people who have no idea what you're trying to do, and they don't resonate with you, and you will start talking to people who speak exactly like you do and like the language you have and agree with your echo chamber of reality. And then you will live in that world. And that's how internal closed communities get built. But that doesn't change the world. Those internal communities who have a click, an inside and an outside, we understand something, you don't understand something. We have a language, you need to learn our language. That doesn't change the world. So that's why I feel like that doesn't move the needle. It just expands the group. But it's much easier to remove the boundaries and then go the other way. Let me go out of my bubble. Let me go and understand. Let me let go of my way of doing it. So that's what we had to learn. That's what we had to like unlearn our tendency to try to bring people into our bubble. And instead, let's try to go into their bubble. And by doing that, both bubbles will kind of meet and expand. And I think that's why we built so deep relationship, because it's a mutual the young people understand my bubble, like they understand and can truly see it, and I can understand them, and we can disagree, and it's totally fine.
Yeah, yeah. That is the art of being a grown up in a way. You know, it's what did I've heard it said recently, sort of holding strong opinions lightly. So this is how I believe it to fit together until someone presents something that that looks better,
Yeah.
and I can then adopt that, and that is playing the in life like that has made it so much more expansive and more exciting because I know that the view I have at the moment is limited. Why wouldn't I want to expand that? And that expansion comes from the bits where life feels uncomfortable because that's rubbing up against um, something that I believe to be true at the moment. And it doesn't matter that that it might get worn off and something else presents itself. That's me growing, and that's helping people realize that and allowing them to experience that too, and realize that friction is part of life, and that's okay. It's not personal. It's only personal if you make it personal, um,
Mhm.
and you're just slowing down a little bit when you rub up against it and just going right. Well, so what is to play for here? Um, and sort of muddling through. I think that's it's a really lovely way to see it. Um, you guys have recently left Chicago to move to Norway. Um, that based on what you've just described for the rebels in terms of them being their own entity and cracking on, have they seen this as an opportunity for them to completely run with things uh, and see how things go? How did you guys come to that decision to move away from Chicago?
Well, I think we have intentionally, this is not like a sudden thing. So we in a way looked at the recipes as a partner that has his own breathing life and organism for 6 years probably. And so the transition wasn't like very dramatic because it's being owned and run and have there's a, practical system like we talked about put in place where we are not the people look to like people don't know about me or Mara in Chicago anymore. Like that's it's all the Rebels for Peace. So it's not like oh, we're gonna leave. It's we are partners with the Rebels for Peace, and now we're just geographically are transitioning to a different place, and that distance has a learning curve of relationships because there are certain things we brought. I'm not going to discount who I am and what I brought to this, or who Mara is and what she brought to us. Like we are have been influential in this game, but it has to be that way where it can live its own life. That's kind of the true test of it. And that it also frees up our mind to think about new things. But for them, I mean, the most emotional thing for us is just a relationship. It's like moving from someone you've worked with and been spent your time with every day, you cried with, you and then not seeing them physically every day. That's the biggest challenge.
Mhm.
But in terms of the mission of the rebels, where it's going, that feels super confident about it. But it's just the relationships and the people that we miss, and they, miss us too. Which is why I'm going back next week, and we are still traveling back and forth, and we talk every day, on FaceTime and on Zoom. But that is what we miss. It's just like that. In the office, brainstorming together, or just meeting face to face.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You mentioned new opportunities. What's on the horizon for you guys next?
Mm, I think that because of a move that is such like jarring for our family, meaning everything is new here for everyone except me, because I've lived here. The rest of, Mara and our kids has lived here before. What's next is slowing down and really listening to what feels like a next chapter will be, and stay true to the commitments we have made, with the rebels, with other projects that we're involved in. But the spirit of one solution is still, strong. It's still kind of how we saw that every human being has the ability to create change, and that we could align our collective resources to go for something, and that what is needed in the world is whatever words you want to use on it, but a shift, a collective shift of consciousness, a collective shift of mind into a something different that we have. I think we can all agree that, we're in a cycle of maybe tension right now in the world, and what we need is something to break through into something different. And I think the world would go in those cycles, but we're always going to be have something to do with humans and how we can create change. I don't think it will be starting anything on the grassroots level anymore. I think it will be being involved and using the listening model that we have of they are experts in what they are trying to do. Let me be involved, but rely on the people who are close to the issues to run things. And that's probably the biggest shift from how we started to how we are now. It's like we started thinking that we could just grow a bunch of people like us and spread ourselves out in the world. And it's like, first of all, that's a different discussion of how hard it is when you work with humans to scale effective quality, like inner transformation. It's not like a product you can just buy more of them. Like it's like years of really understanding how to get good at that. Um, so because of that, I think it's better to partner and experiment and create these like coalitions and collectives. So it's definitely something more in that vein.
Mm.
So that's probably maybe not as clear, but that is as clear as it gets from that.
That's cool. Well, it takes us right back to the beginning, I suppose, in terms of how you articulate what it is that you do when you're new at something. You
Yes.
guys you're hitting a new phase, and why would you have it nailed at the moment?
Yeah, I haven't thought about that. That is exactly how it feels. It's this,
Um,
oh, I gotta just walk on the path. There's no
yeah,
way
yeah,
I'm taking myself there.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
no, that's true. I haven't
and
thought
that's a
about
beautifully exciting place to be.
it. Yeah.
Oh, Eric, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Is there anything that either you or the Rebels have got coming up in in the next month or two? This will probably go out at some point in October, I'd have thought.
If you're in Chicago, I would definitely recommend reaching out to Rebels for the events that they have. There's always an event at the end of the year that's open to the public. That's around November or December. So you can kind of sign up to a newsletter if you're interested in that. But more than anything, what we're doing now is something called the Rebel Games. So it's a kind of friendly competition where individuals or teams or organizations go together to sponsor mini rebels, who are the youngest fourth through eighth graders who are in the school. So from now until the end of the year, we've been 2 months in now, but we are creating these teams where people either want to donate directly or you might have an access to people that you want to spread it and allows you to set a goal, whether that is $100 or $100,000, and then you can reach out to your community to try to kind of get to that amount. And our goal is to reach 600 mini rebels by the end of the year. I think we're currently at 125. So when this being launched in October, probably that has grown. But that would be my biggest invitation is to go to therebelgames.com and see if you want to be a rebel, support a rebel, or get involved in any type of way. That'd be my biggest request.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for joining us today. If you've enjoyed the conversation, feel free to subscribe and join me and my new guests next time. If you're interested in the work I'm doing, or you think I can be of service to you or your organisation, please email dave@simplicityofmind.co.uk. Remember, see if you can find time to slow down and reflect. Those simple ideas might be worth listening to. Take care, and I hope you can join me in a couple of weeks.